Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06 now. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday morning in your nation's capital. Coming up in 30 minutes, Byron York from the Washington Examiner will talk about that topic we were just discussing, the anti-Trump alarm that's gone off. The dictatorship is right around the corner. And then also at 8:35, Luke Rosiak, Daily Wire, has a story unbelievable about a Tacoma Park school teacher who's also on the board of the union, who really doesn't like Jewish people, it appears. So we'll get into that a little later in the program. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know if you saw, but John Kerry there, the unelected and unconfirmed so-called climate czar, unaccountable to no one except the President of the United States, representing us over there at the United Arab Emirates in a beautifully air-conditioned building. Right. Has anyone asked? These people are all in the middle of a freaking desert, and they're telling us to turn off the lights.
That's right.
Because climate change.
Don't go visit your family at Thanksgiving.
And he said he wants to wipe out coal. Coal. But he never mentioned China in the entire mix, by the way. America, yes, utilizes a hell of a lot of coal because it's easy, it's cheap. And by the way, we're burning it cleaner than we ever have in the history of mankind. Meanwhile, China, don't get me started. Anyway, John Kerry did that. And we need to discuss exactly what the implications might be and what he really wants to achieve with this policy. Joining us is the CEO of the American Energy Institute and a senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, Jason Isaac. Jason, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be on. Thanks for having me.
So this whole renewed crusade against coal, which, 4 years ago when Biden was running for president, he promised he wasn't going to touch any of this stuff because he wanted to get votes in Pennsylvania. But I guess the cat's out of the bag now, right? They're done. It's a jihad against coal.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's a jihad against fossil fuels produced in this country that are produced more responsibly than anywhere else in the world. And while John Kerry won't admit that the jet fuel that he's using to fly around the world and preach to us about how bad our lives are going to be and if we don't stop using fossil fuels, doesn't realize that the jet fuel is being refined in China, powered by electricity. That refinery is being powered by electricity from coal, as you mentioned. Yeah. The sad thing is that China is just refining Iranian oil because the Biden administration is just turning their back to the sanctions and allowing them to do it, and it's funding terrorism around the world. It's just a complete lack of leadership that like we have never seen around the world, and especially in this country. I
agree with you, but even if there are plenty of people who think that the climate is in crisis and the planet's, it's a ticking time bomb, and the entire Earth is going to be beyond destruction, beyond repair if we don't do something about it. So even if you do believe that, Jason Isaac, I would think that before you go out there and say we've got to get rid of the energy source for 20% of America's electricity, maybe they should have a plan B. Maybe they should say, okay, we're going to get rid of coal, but the good news is we're going to do this instead. They've got no other plan.
Well, you're absolutely right. And if they do believe that, I want to give them some hope. The United States has become a world leader in clean air. While we've used more fossil fuels over the last 50 years, we've reduced pollution nearly 80%, becoming world leaders. We're number one when it comes to access to clean and safe drinking water, something that 1 billion people on the planet would love to be able to have access to clean and safe drinking water. But they don't even have access to electricity. There's 3.5 billion people on the planet that don't have access to electricity as much as would power a refrigerator over a year. There's so many things that we take for granted. And yes, we just don't have a plan B. The plan B that we really need is we actually need more coal because we do utilize it and produce it more responsibly. And it is great for on-site storage of backup electricity. You can have 9 months power with coal sitting on-site at the coal-fired power plant. And it's just no wonder that people like John Kerry and Michael Bloomberg have been going around demonizing coal for decades now. It's to drive an agenda, and that agenda is all about control.
Jason, we certainly need more coal, and we need to stop demonizing it, but we also need alternative energy sources that work, like nuclear energy, which John Kerry and the Biden administration continue to also demonize. And again, it's never mentioned. What is the sort of state of nuclear energy in this country? We know that Germany and England mentioned, and many European countries have done away with nuclear. But what is the state of nuclear power here in the States?
No, you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, the only thing that's changing with nuclear power in the United States is public perception. And public perception has completely reversed over the last decades because people realize that, wait, this is so-called emission-free, pollution-free electric generation. It's the most dense energy on the planet. Why aren't we using more of it? And I think this is where even some people on the left are starting to wake up that, wait, they're kind of hypocritical because there's this source of electricity right here that doesn't have any pollution, that this would be the panacea, you think, and they're opposed to it. And I don't understand why, but I think the public perception is changing, and that's going to lead to more nuclear growth in this country. Over 80% of the electricity in France comes from nuclear energy. This is a good thing. If you want to deindustrialize a country and lose economic prosperity, get rid of affordable, reliable energy. And that's where John Kerry is professing around the world. He wants to transition everything to China and out of the United States, and that's going to be the end result.
Yeah, good thing to be beholden to China for yet another thing. But this nothing important, though, just our energy and our vehicles, too. By the way, this push for electric vehicles, I want to remind everybody what happened in 2022. The GM CEO, Kristen Zimmerman, was out there doing a whole press event showing their new electric vehicles in a suburb of Detroit in Michigan.
Because everybody thought we killed the electric vehicle. No, we didn't. It's alive and well.
So what's charging the batteries right now? What's the source of
well, here. It's coming from the building.
I mean, is it, what's our mix of power?
Oh, actually, Lansing feeds the building.
What's that?
Lansing feeds power to the building. So I don't know. I bet you they're a bit of coal. Well, they're heavy on natural gas, aren't they?
Right now the car's charging off of your grid.
Right. It would be charging off our grid, which is about 95% coal.
Okay, so let's just be clear here. When you plug your car in for your clean energy, the electricity to plug your car in is coal. By the way, the factory that is building that electric car is you turn the lights on and turn the machinery on thanks to coal. If you work in a solar power panel manufacturing company, to make the solar panels, you need coal. So Jason Isaac, what the hell are we talking about here?
It's absolute absurdity. I just published some research a couple of weeks ago about the true cost of EVs. And over 10 years, if you own an electric vehicle, your cost that if you were the owner and really bearing the cost would be over $17 a gallon equivalent. You're paying about $1.21 for the electricity, but then you've got all your neighbors and all your friends helping pay for the rest. It's the cost for the transmission and the upgrades for infrastructure. It's the corporate average fuel economy. The people that are buying internal combustion engine, gasoline or diesel cars, are helping contribute towards your electric vehicle. If the electric vehicle owner was truly paying all the costs, they'd be paying over $17 a gallon. Now, keep in mind, when you have one EV plugged into a charger, it's pulling from the grid the electricity equivalent of a small grocery store. When you have 4 EVs plugged in, they're pulling a Walmart supercenter equivalent amount of electricity from the grid.
Wow.
So not only are we destroying our grid by getting rid of coal, we're destroying it by putting so much more demand on it.
By the way,
it's
I used to
being pushed down our throats.
Anyone who's yelling, hypocrite to me at the radio, because people do know that I do drive a Tesla. I like the Tesla. It's an American-made car, and Elon Musk ticks off all the right people. But I used to joke that I don't drive the Tesla to save the planet or the climate change. In fact, I go home and burn a tire in my backyard to add carbon emissions to offset what I'm saving. But now I realize just driving the Tesla is actually a huge carbon footprint. So I'm feeling better about it now, Jason.
You should. You need to embrace the high carbon lifestyle. I do. I think the rest of the world does too. That's why I think it's one of your congressmen, Raskin, who called me the Carbon King before Congress, and I've completely embraced the name because I do. I live a high carbon lifestyle, and so should the rest of the world.
You know what, Jason? We need to get you a crown and do a whole coronation ceremony. I think that would be a great thing. We'll get it sponsored. All right, Jason Isaac, thank you very much. And I think the new marketing campaign should be "Screw the planet, buy a Tesla." Actually harms better than
live a high carbon lifestyle.
I don't think Elon will go with that. It's 7:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes first on the 5s with